Now we've come to the final chapter in the story of Joseph. Wonderful Bible character, wonderful picture of the Lord Jesus. Just to recap and just to rewind, this is about Joseph forgiving his brothers. His brothers, of course, hated him. Joseph had two dreams, and as if the stars, the moon, the sun, and the crops, the sheaves, were all bowing down to him. And twice they said, "We will never bow down to you." And just remember that, because in a few minutes we're going to find out exactly what happened. Then Joseph went to see his brothers, and they hated him, the sight of him, the thought of him, and they got him and they put him into a pit to leave him for wild animals. Then they sold him. And even in the pit, Joseph cried with all his heart, and they would not listen to his cry or help him out. And Joseph then was sold by Ishmaelites, two Ishmaelites, to be sold as a slave to Potiphar. And Potiphar bought him as a slave, and there he was promoted, even in Potiphar's house, a stranger, promoted to being in charge over all the other servants and slaves in the household. And then, remember I told you about how Potiphar's wife tricked him and tried to get her to lie with him to lie with her, and he was put into prison for many years. But the whole time, the secret of Joseph's life was this: and the Lord was with Joseph. A wonderful thought. Can you say that today? That the Lord is with you as he was with Joseph, Jacob, Abraham, as he is with me. It's a wonderful comfort to be able to know that with full assurance. And even in the prison, Joseph is promoted to being in charge over all the prisoners. And these two guys, two prisoners, they both had a dream. And one of the dream was the baker, he said, the baker, the bread, he was carrying bread, and the birds came and ate all the bread. And the butler, the grapes were all squeezed and put into a cup. Joseph said in 3 days to the butler, "You're going to get your job back and you're going to be let out of prison. But the baker, the way the birds ate your bread, it means you're going to be executed in 3 days' time." And both those dreams came true. And one day the king, Pharaoh, had a dream, and no one could translate his dream. And the butler says, "Why did you get Joseph in prison? He'll tell you exactly what your dream meant." And he called for Joseph. And Joseph came before Potiphar and told him his dream about how the 7 skinny cows came out of the river and ate up 7 fat cows, and how there were 7 skinny pieces of corn ate 7 thick pieces of corn. Joseph said, "That's simple." He said, "There's going to be a famine in 7 years' time. So for 7 years, if I was you, I would collect your crops every year for 7 years until there's enough to last for another 7 years. And God was emphasizing this twice. And as a result of Joseph's interpreting dreams and his wisdom, he was promoted to being the prime minister in charge of all the people and in charge of this program to make sure enough food was preserved. After 7 years of keeping enough food, Joseph was in charge of it all. He's been promoted. He's now wealthy. He's loved by all the people, and no one even knew hardly his background. Then the famine came. The famine was not only in this country, but it spread to surrounding countries, and even spread to Jacob, Joseph's father, and all his brothers. And his father said to Benjamin and all his brothers, "I hear that Pharaoh got food in the other country. Go to where he is and buy some food, or we'll starve to death." But he told Benjamin, "You stay here with me, and your 10 older brothers will go." And off they went. And they were brought before the prime minister, who was Joseph, by the way, but they didn't recognize him. But Joseph recognized his brothers, and they bowed down to Joseph and they said, "Please, can we buy some food from you?" But Joseph never told them who he was, and he couldn't believe his eyes. Then he said, "Where have you come from?" And they told him, "Do you have a father or mother?" They said, "Yes, we've got a father called Jacob, and he sent us here to buy some food. And we have a younger brother called Benjamin." Then he gave them some food. This time he deliberately gave, whenever they come back, he gave his younger brother Benjamin twice more food. His younger one, to see if they would argue, but they never. They were content. He noticed it changed. Then he couldn't take it any longer. And he called his brothers to him and said, "Brothers, my name is Joseph." And immediately they bowed down. "Oh, Joseph, don't kill us, don't harm us. We're sorry for all we've done." Do you notice what they just done? They just bowed down twice to Joseph. And they said at the very beginning, we will never, ever bow down to you. And now they bowed down twice. You know what Joseph said? Brothers, you meant this for evil, but God meant it for good. I forgive you. Just like the Lord Jesus Christ forgive. When the Lord Jesus was nailed on the cross, do you know what he said? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They never realized what they were doing. If they knew they were killing the Son of God, realizing who he really was, they would bow down and worship him, but they crucified him. Joseph was a lovely picture of the Lord Jesus, and he sent them home. Go and get my father. And when Joseph saw his father, he embraced him, he loved him, and he hugged him, and he kissed him. He said, Father, bring your children, and bring all your families, and bring all your animals, all your cattle and your sheep, and come and live here with me. And he introduced his father to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, because of your son Joseph, our country's been saved, because of his wisdom. And Jacob was able to say, the secret of my son is not me, it's our God, because the Lord has blessed him and blessed your household as well. Pharaoh said to Joseph, bring your family here and make a new camp and live here so that I can look after you, and that land out there can be your land. Joseph was able to introduce his two children, Manasseh and Ephraim, to his father, to their grandfather Jacob. And Jacob loved Joseph as he's always loved Joseph. And that's the end of Joseph's life story. A lovely picture how the Lord was with him, even though everything seemed to keep going bad. The Lord never forgot him, and the Lord still blessed him because the Lord never left him.